1971. There was a relatively large group of parents with very little children who wanted to learn and hear more and more about Waldorf education. We had a kind of a preschool kindergarten get-together, would have with the parents' introduction to Waldorf education. There was one, Mrs. Condon, said, I want to open a Waldorf school. And I told her, are you crazy? She says, oh well, we can do it. And then our children can go to a Waldorf school. I said, well, Joan, if you want to do it, I will help you. Because I know what it would take.
Let's take a look at some of the history of the Denver Waldorf School.
The Denver Waldorf School found its first home in 1974 at the Harvey Baptist Church. In 1978, they moved to an Episcopal church on Colorado Boulevard, where there was no playground and a crazy minister. They only stayed there for 1 year. In 1979, they moved to 735 East Florida, where they stayed for 24 years. In 1994, the Denver Waldorf High School was created. In 2003, the school moved to 940 Fillmore Street.
Kindergarten is quite different from public school kindergarten. We do not teach academics, but we do life. We are about to celebrate the Halloween festival and the Lantern Festival. We're making beautiful lanterns out of paper mache. We love to make the kindergarten like a home for the children so they can develop their imagination and their movement skills, and that they can develop healthy social emotional relationships. So we do a lot of creative play. We do things that are home-based, like baking bread and cooking soup, cutting vegetables. And so the children get a real taste of how do you do life.
Typical story of parents packing their kids a sandwich or saying go off and play with your friends and come back at lunch is just not a possibility in this day and age. And so children really are limited in their experience of the world, and they don't necessarily get to go out and dig in the mud for worms or garden or lift heavy things. Life at the Waldorf School is in many ways works toward being a balance to that modern society. So that's where kindergarten here, everyone just comes and plays, they listen to stories, they bake bread, they get to dig, they get to play in the sand, they get to swing, they get all of these physical experiences, as well as things like the stories and the songs that are sort of the quiet or the reflective.
The sun is shining, the sky is blue.
The young child is in picture thinking. They like to do and not be explained about. Rudolf Steiner, who is the founder of Waldorf education, has explained that those growth forces, when one teaches academics in the early years, one takes away from the forces they actually need to grow. I love doing the circle time, where I can really see that a child is able or striving to do certain movements, which we know integrate the brain, and that I love to make them laugh. I guess that might be one of my favorite things, is humor. I love to laugh with them.
Hey! 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 My hand, I'll walk with you, my dear.
The stairs creak as I sleep.
Is the house telling you?
His bag is deep and wide, carrying messages from all the world, bundled up inside.
When children enter the school, coming from kindergarten into the grades, we form a community. And this community then is going to last through the 8th grade as one class. This social working allows then the children to grow stronger, working through the difficulties that may come up, or to work through learning together. All the things that a social group can work with prepares them for later life in work situations and family situations and all situations. It makes them much, much stronger.
What gives strength to the children is the beautiful rhythm that our school provides. Every morning they come in and they know that they might have a little quiz, but then they know we have songs and music. They know every day what to expect. It's really a family away from their family, and it really gives them a lot of support.
Stood still, and the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around.
Having a teacher who stays with you for 8 years when you start until you're an 8th grader and you go into high school, I think that's a really interesting thing because it's kind of like having another parent in a way. Because so much of what we learn comes from the way it's taught, and having a teacher who stays with you, you learn and the teacher learn. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement, I think.
The children learn through very imaginatively told stories. They also are able to use the arts of drawing and painting to color the images that they would form from the stories that they hear. Also, the lively arts of singing and music enable the class to grow as a social unit in a very strong way. When the class speaks a poem together, or the class is singing a song together, playing the recorders together, we are one whole class, and it teaches cooperation, and it teaches the listening to the music and the singing of the other students to strengthen the group dynamic.
We awaken and inspire students' critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and artistic expression, preparing them to bring relevant contributions to the world. We teach them to play 2 or 3 different instruments in the time that they're here. We teach them to work with their hands so that they are modeling clay, they're doing blacksmith. We teach them to be able to draw, paint. We teach them to move. We teach them to move in sync with music, to appreciate music and to appreciate movement. We teach them to have an interest in the arts and culture and literature. We teach them to want to learn.
The lesson has something that is relating to their age in a way that they can understand, then it's a very powerful lesson. So in a nature story, for instance, in 1st grade, we are teaching science through an artistic told story about different aspects of nature. A mother bird might say to her baby, "I see you're growing beautiful, beautiful feathers, and in a short time, you will stand on the edge of the nest and fly." Whereas we told that same story in a very dry way, we could say, well, the young birds grow flight feathers at a certain time in their development. Rather, we can have a conversation between all of nature. Stories like that can show how we can teach science in a way that engages their feelings. So throughout all the grades, there are age-appropriate activities in the sciences and in the language arts and history and music. All sorts of things are prepared that meet the child in a new way every year. When the students enter middle school, again the curriculum reflects their development. In a way, they are entering a time when they want to know what the rules are, and in a way, in middle school, they don't want any rules. So the perfect curriculum then to meet this development is Roman history that offers this view of how a human being struggles to work on self-governance. And they can live into these stories that are told in a way that they can express feelings and feel how the different personalities felt in those times, so that the story becomes alive to them. Come to the Waldorf High School, it's again a big change. They no longer have a class teacher that is their teacher alone. They have many teachers now in the high school that will teach them each a block according to what is appropriate from each teacher. And there they learn to work with different personalities to prepare themselves even for later education, to learn from the different professors and instructors that they will have in the future.
Well, something that is undeniably unique about the Waldorf education and experience is that we have such a tight feeling of community here. Because we have these small class sizes and because there are only 50 kids in the high school, we have to learn how to be friends with everybody in the high school, which I think it helps to expand your social circles, whereas in a public school you may only hang out with the people from these other social circles and you may only have that social aspect to yourself, but here I can have an intellectual conversation with one person and then be completely silly with another person, you know, and it's just so different than having your one clique that you hang out with all the time.
And I think Waldorf is really great for introverted, shy people because being a transfer student, it was not as traumatic as transferring to a large school is because there are so few people and it's not overwhelming at all.
And so in the high school there's still the structure around the blocks. There's still a main lesson block that changes every 3 to 4 weeks. There's an academic track class. There's still a strong emphasis on the arts and the arts classes in the afternoon and the other electives that we have, different music and physical movement classes.
In the high school then, the world is not only beautiful and good, but the world is true. So using intellect now, we then have a perception of where truth shows itself in physics, chemistry, in history, so that we pursue rigorously the academics in the high school through, again, a Socratic approach and pressing the students ever more to think for themselves based on what they are able to observe.
The classes tend to be a lot of discussion. They tend to be driven by the topic at hand, but also in such a way that the students are engaged in meeting that topic. As teachers, we try to make that topic resonate with the students where they are today. So, for instance, ancient history is a great example that on the surface level really has very little relationship to our modern world, but of course is the basis for everything that we do and the form of our society and how we think.
The Waldorf School looks at a three-way balance between athletics, academics, and artistic. We get to the high school and the academics are quite rigorous. We focus in on making sure that there's a certain amount of movement in class. So the athletic part, even if you're not interested in athletics, you have to have a sense of moving. You have to be able to move. It's not just all sit down and think it through. And then of course the arts, here at the Denver School, we have that afternoon art class every day. You will have the groundwork to be a complete human being. You will have a sense of the arts, you'll have the capabilities of moving, and have the ability of self-thought, of self-reason. You will be cognizant of that. You'll be aware of this idea that you can do all of this, which then puts you into the world to say, I can do anything. I can do anything I want to do. If I choose to go down that path, I have the courage and the knowledge to know that I can go down that path and be able to meet any obstacle that I meet along that path.
The teachers are warm and accessible to the students, but at the same time, I think they demand a certain respect and reverence for the class or for the subject, for their learning. I think the teachers expect the students to put work into their learning, uncaring about the actual work that gets done, but they are still very accessible to the student and have a good relationship that's nice and easy to be with, I think.
In high school, that is really then when the critical thinking wants to wake up and wants to meet. And there's an enormous difference between the 9th grade and the 12th grade. 9th graders are still halfway as 8th graders and bounce around and don't quite know who they are. And 10th grade is already more settled. Where do we come from? What's my past? 11th grade, not for naught, Middle Ages, Renaissance, history. 12th grade, now which way do I want to go?
There are a great bunch of kids that go to school here. Really wonderful, budding human beings. And knowing that I can educate the person to be morally complete, intelligent, being able to think a process through, and will be able to go out into the world and advance mankind in a way that's healthy for all of mankind.
We'll all be gone, all our friends will move away. They're going to better places, but our friends will be gone away. Nothing is as it has been, but I'll miss your face like hell. And I guess it's just as well, but all